George is going to lead us in the.
No idea how to sit down.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to call the emergency meeting for Thursday. Today is April 24th. It's 9:05. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hollenbeck. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one certificate of appointment this morning to announce. I've reviewed it, it's in proper form, and I'm pleased to report that the mayor of Crown Point, Peter Land, has appointed the mayor of Crown Point. Was it opposed, or did you?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Look forward to working with you.
Me too.
That's it. Thank you, sir. Duly constituted.
Yeah, we'd also like to welcome Mr. Tim Clayton. He was here, he was nominated last month, but he's here today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Roll call, please, Candace.
Yes. Kyle Allen.
Present.
Thank you. Dwayne Arndt.
Present.
Jeanette Bass. Thomas Black.
Present.
Kevin Brightsky.
Here.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
Bill Carroll.
Here.
Tim Clayton.
Present.
Anthony Copeland. Don Kraft.
Here.
Josh Lane Denman. Present. Tom Dermody.
Present.
Dinah Dumbrus. Denise Ebert. Here. Bill Emerson.
Here.
Robert Forster.
Here.
Connie Grammarosa. Richard Hardaway.
Here.
Tony Hendricks. Ellen Hunt. Here. Jack Geralds.
Here.
Jane Jordan. Here. Justin Keel.
Present.
Scott Keenan. Peter Land.
Here.
Robert LeMay. Sue Lynch.
Present.
Tom McDermott. Lori Mercer.
Here.
Wendy Miss.
Present.
Edward Morales.
Here.
Matt Murphy. Randall Niemeyer. Dwayne Perry. David Peeler. Jim Pressel. Jerome Prince. Barb Regnitz.
Here.
Lisa Rosenkrantz.
Here.
Regina Riddell.
Here.
Rick Rifa.
Here.
Tom Schmidt.
Here.
Brian Snidecorp.
Present.
Steve Spivard. Red Stone.
Present.
Gerald Swets.
Present.
Sharon Zwido. Mary Tanis.
Here.
Jim Tunn.
Present.
George Topple.
Present.
John Yelkich. One moment. We have 34 in attendance. Let me recheck this.
Thank you very much.
Proud of ourselves.
Yes.
At this, we have no public comment this morning. So we'll move right along. I have no report from the chair this morning, so we'll go straight to, what did I miss? Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Approval of minutes from March 16, 2023 from the executive board, pages 1.
So moved to approve the minutes.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr.
Carnahan.
Carnahan and seconded by, we have a couple seconds, Mary Tanis and Kyle Allen. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same?
Side note.
Yeah. That's it.
34, we have 4.
Thank you. Moving right along to, now, the chair has no report, and we'll go to the executive director, Tyler.
Only just a quick overview of what we're doing today, because I think both of the things that we'll be voting on today really exemplify the regional push that NERC has. And I won't steal thunder of staff, they're going to present these items, but one deals with the Marquette Greenway, which is a project I think you're all familiar with, the trail that goes from Chicago to New Buffalo, Michigan, which exemplifies how this region has come together to create something of benefit for all 3 counties. And the other item of the agenda is staff is going to be giving an overview of our federally mandated but regionally developed long-range plan, the next iteration of which is 2050 plus, which also involved a ton of input opportunities throughout the region at the county fairs and whatnot to get to this point. So excited about both of these items on the agenda. But before I do that, I just wanted, because they're both in the room, introduce 2 new staff people, and I'm totally putting them in the spot. I'm not asking you to speak, don't worry, just to be acknowledged. But Stephen Hughes is our new transit and engagement planner that started with us a couple weeks ago. And Grace, thank you. And Grace Benninger is our new spatial analyst who also started at the same time. You'll be seeing more of them as time goes on here, so glad to have them on board.
Thank you, sir. Finance and Personnel Committee, Wendy Miss.
Good morning, everyone. The Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning promptly at 8 o'clock to review the financial reports for February and March 2023. We also reviewed the bank reconciliations for February and March and the claims registers for March of 2023. All were found to be satisfactory, and we thank Ms. Jones for all of her efforts and her team for the efforts on that. We have one item and one action item for consideration today, a request for the approval to enter into a contract with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert Incorporated for the Marquette Greenway project with a revision, with a contingent revision from the Federal Highway. There's also one modification which you have all should have received a handout regarding. It's Exhibit D. We are recommending the change from your initial packet was $810,000, and our funding only allows a maximum of $600,000. Butler was very cooperative and was able to shift that down to $600,000. Mr. Bradsky's here, and he can fill in any, he's got a few things maybe to say, or is he just available for questions? But the Personnel and Finance Committee motion was very favorable for this. We favorably recommend entering into this contract with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert. Any questions? Very good. Then I request approval from the full board.
So moved.
Mr. Bradsky, you did a great job this morning. We're all excited about it. Great opportunity for us.
Motion by Mr. Khan, second by Barb, that we approve, can't pronounce your last name. Redmond. That we approve the Marquette Greenway Project Management and Project Development draft contract. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
And the next Personnel and Finance Committee meeting will be May 18th at 8 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Technical Planning Committee, Kevin Bresky.
The Technical Planning Committee met on Tuesday, April 11th. Today, there's only one item for TPC business. It's a presentation of Northwest Indiana's 2050 plus draft Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The comment period is now underway for this plan. NERC staff involved in the preparation of the draft document will now each present on the topics covered.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're here to talk about NWI 2050 Plus. As our executive director said, it is federally mandated, yet, of course, regionally involved. This is required by federal law. We're required to update this plan, our long-range plan every 4 years, and so NWI 2050 Plus is set to be our latest 4-year iteration of that requirement. It is also required to have at least a 20-year horizon. It is pretty much just an update of NWI 2050. That is the plan that you see on that board, or at least a portion of that plan is what you see on the wall over there with your matrix there that you've been looking at for the last almost 4 years now. So hopefully you're familiar with it. And this body did adopt that plan back in 2019. And NWI 2050 Plus is set to continue the 4 main focus areas found in NWI 2050, which are connected, renewed, united, and vibrant. NWI 2050 Plus is also set to provide practical and measurable solutions to our region. However, there are some differences between NWI 2050 Plus and the NWI 2050, and those have to do with the new emphasis areas from the IIJA, which is the federal infrastructure law that passed late in 2021. And those themes that are kind of heightened in NWI 2050 Plus are resiliency, housing, carbon reduction, and freight. So these are areas of additional emphasis that you'll find in our draft NWI 2050 Plus plan, which is out for public comment, which has been out since April 4th. So just a very brief timeline of how we got here. Back in May of 2019, this body adopted NWI 2050. From about May of 2019 to November 2021, we were really in the mode of implementing NWI 2050. But at some point around November of 2021, we realized we have to start preparing for the next plan, since that comes along every 4 years. So in February of 2022, we put up an RFP for consultant help in certain elements having to do with active transportation, land use, transit, and freight. And then in March of 2022, we hired on those consultants to help our team. And then in June of 2022, we did a pop-up event at the Maryville Juneteenth event. That was a great event. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that opportunity. We also did a series of public open houses across our 3 counties in June of 2022. And then a lot of you probably saw us out at the county fairs in July and August of last year. We went to the LaPorte County Fair in July, and later in July, the Porter County Fair, and then in August, the Lake County Fair. And then pretty much from August to around March, we were just really busy getting that draft NWI 2050 Plus out for public comment, which happened on April 4th. And as I mentioned, the comment period extends until May 5th. And then we are expecting to adopt NWI 2050 Plus in July of this year, after we resolve our air quality conformity determination, which is a federal requirement. So what components does NWI 2050 Plus have? Well, it has an introduction, and then 6 other chapters. And these are in alphabetical order, not to suggest that any one is more important than the other, and this will be the order that we present on this morning. So active transportation, climate and the environment, freight, land use and housing, roadways, and transit. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Stephen Hughes, to present on the active transportation element.
So, one thing that Scott didn't mention is we did have a good public participation element in this. Here's just some photos from, I think these were from the fairs, right?
Yeah.
So, and while my position is the public transit and engagement planner, since Mitch is at a conference today, I'm going to be covering the active transportation component, and I figured I'd throw on my little buttons for active transportation in case you were confused that Mitch isn't the one talking about this. What we've talked about a lot in the past here for active transportation has been trail focused. Those of you who've been on the commission for a while will remember that. On this map, we've got in green the trails and the existing and the proposed trails, but then in red you're seeing, those are roads. Those are streets and roads that add stronger connection between communities, so that once someone gets maybe off the trail and wants to head into town, there's a good way for them to do that. There's a number of roads that have been identified. Obviously, this is just a very brief overview. But for different types of facilities that are varying levels of good for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Without belaboring the point here, this is 4 of, I think, about 12 that are identified in the plan. The dark blue and the orange are the colors that represent that the public input determined those are good for all or most users. So you can see there are different opportunities from bike lanes to on-street and off-street facilities. And that's, every community is different. There are recommendations depending on kind of what type of travel you see in your community. And this is a portion of the topology for what the different roads are, basically ranging from your trails all the way up to your major arterials. Those are going to be large commercial roads. Most of you are familiar with those classifications. Talks about what you'd expect out of those roads, what you'd expect in terms of who's using those roads, and some general suggestions about, well, maybe these are appropriate if, or maybe these are not appropriate if not for. So there's a whole lot more information in the plan. Obviously, this is 3 slides out of something like 90 pages on that. So I think that is all that I can really speak to on this. And Kathy will talk to you about climate and environment.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
The environment section of the regional plan are not new. Most of it you've seen before. So today I'm just going to talk about some excerpts from the climate plan that pertain mostly to transportation and some new work we've done on environment towards resiliency. Climate Action Northwest Indiana is kind of the brand we're putting over the regional greenhouse gas inventories, regional climate action framework, and then a regional resiliency plan. We did the inventory in 2020, and many of you participated in that. We're working on the action framework right now, and then this coming year we're working on the resiliency planning aspects. In case you haven't seen some of these predictions. It's expected that we'll have between 25 and 50 more days of extreme heat events by 2050, and 2 to 7 more extreme precipitation events. So who does that impact? The high heat events are a health risk for children and the elderly, people who work outside. OSHA even has an app, so you can tell if it's too hot for your workers to be out there. And that's an example of what year, but when the culverts, a lot of infrastructure gets damaged when we have the severe rain events. So working with ICLEI and Indiana University, we came up with science-based targets of a greenhouse gas reduction of 63.4% from our 2017 baseline by 2030, and then net zero is our target for 2050. And then there's a bunch of numbers that I'm not going to talk about right now. You have to read this. These are the same numbers, but kind of in pictures, in case that's easier. The chart on the left is showing all of the emissions for Northwest Indiana. The chart on the right is removing industrial energy and industrial direct emissions from the chart, because we can't really do a lot about that. But I thought it's important to put it in context so that, and then the red line represents the 2030 emission target, and then at the top, and the bottom one is the 2050 target. The 2030 target, we are there, except for industrial process, and we can't do anything with that. 2050 is going to be a harder effort, but just to say that it seemed like really doom and gloom when we first said 63.4%, but it's actually pretty achievable. And here we're forecasting emissions based on population growth, economic growth, and other assumptions that are already in the regional plan. So mostly we're going to focus on transportation in this planning document. This is just showing that in our in the transportation and mobile source category, which includes planes, trains, and automobiles, gas vehicles, which are basically mostly passenger cars, are like 60%, and then diesel on-road vehicles are another 30%, almost all of it, And the other two ones are rail and non-road mobile, which is like construction equipment, agricultural equipment, like things that are moving around but not moving people or things. So that's what most of this will focus on. And really the only way to reduce emissions from those categories are reduce the miles traveled, which we've been talking about here for years with the non-motorized and complete streets and denser development so people can walk and bike to places. That's how you reduce the miles, or add new trains. Or you can reduce the amount of carbon per mile, which one of the requirements in the IIJA is to really focus on planning for electric vehicle transition. This is just showing where the yellow dots are the current electric vehicle charging stations. The black ones are those that would be added with the INDOT's NEVI plan and also NIPSCO's VW project. You can see we have some gaps kind of in the urban, I don't know my point because I got quite confused, in the urban core, and we have gaps in the rural areas that aren't really being addressed currently. And then last is kind of trying to bring our previous conservation planning together with the concept of resilience. Some of you who've been around a while may remember in 2040, we had the whole map colored green, and then the greenways and blueways 2020, we narrowed it down some. These conservation focus areas represent about 7 years of work with conservation partners, the DNR, and other agencies on a handful of places that are really, they're important. They're the pearls on the string of the river. And so they increase our resilience, they provide a place for the trees, which our forests and trees suck up 100,000 tons of carbon a year. And they make us more resilient. So we're recommending that those areas be carefully looked at and buffered going forward. And now you will see Scott again. Scott, you will see a few times.
Thank you, Kathy. Excellent overview of climate and the environment. Now we'll talk about freight and the freight chapter in NWI 2050+. So we were very fortunate to have great consultants working with CPCS out of Washington, D.C., and they did just a phenomenal job of collecting a bunch of data and helping us with the freight element in the plan, as well as the steering committee, which some of you participated in or were involved in some of those interviews. So thank you very much for that. So as far as freight is concerned, we looked at kind of safety. So we looked at, this map shows where the truck-related crashes are, which you might be surprised to learn is actually less than 10% of all of the road-based crashes in our region, but still, there's a lot of dots on this map, unfortunately. And we also looked at where some of the rail crashes were at rail crossings. We all know that we have a ton of at-grade rail crossings in this region, and that's going to be an issue that we'll continue to face over the years, and hopefully they'll gain more importance. But other than the next element that we looked at in the freight chapter was looking at mobility issues. As you can see, the Mormon Expressway, I-8094, is highlighted as a bottleneck. It is definitely a bottleneck, as we all know. And so we identified where the truck bottlenecks were. We also identified where the low bridge clearances are, under 16 feet on the interstate system in our region. And as you can see from this map, there are a lot of those bridges as well that can perhaps pose as barriers. And so this is a very helpful exercise to look at the mobility issues related to freight. We also looked at the infrastructure condition related to freight. So this highlights kind of the areas of poor pavement segments in our region, as well as bridges that are in poor condition. So putting all this together, our consultants helped us come up with this gap areas of potential projects that could address safety, mobility, and pavement issues as well in our region. So we looked at where these highlighted projects are. Now, we did discover that most of these potential projects are on INDOT facilities, as you might imagine. Those are the most important facilities related to freight. However, we also looked at some of the kind of the highest impact, high-level planning cost estimates for potential projects that could address freight issues. So one potential project we looked at addressing is this Norfolk Southern Bridge over US 30 in the town of Cherville. This is an under 16-foot bridge, so that is below, and it's on the national highway system, meaning that there are trucks that use this facility, and there are also no shoulders for non-auto users to get through. So this is definitely a high-priority project to look at in the future. And then also looking at the idea of open road tolling on the Indiana Toll Road, removing all of the toll booths and replacing them with either open road tolling, gantries, or toll-by-plate facilities. We estimated that a very high-level planning cost estimate for that bridge project cost about $25 million, and removing the toll booths or replacing it with open road tolling to be around 1.55 million per pole booth. So these are pretty substantial projects, but we hope to gain momentum and traction about these in the future. With that, I'll turn it over to Ema to talk about land use and housing.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, this part is the land use and housing, and in this one specifically, we adding housing for the first time because we are required now to add housing with the doing analysis of the land use and transportation. It's a high resolution map, that's why it takes time. So in this part, the scope was to look at the existing land use patterns and trends within the three-county area. Also, we have population trends and projection. We looked also at all the communities' effort in the last 10 years and their planning efforts and comprehensive plans. We identified some issues or uncertainties. We looked at what kind of development vision that we're looking for and the land use principles that we would like to apply here based on the vision that we have of the four connected, renewed, and united and vibrant. So by the end, we came up with the future population, the number of the population, which is almost, we're gonna reach by the year 2050, almost 900,000 people within the area, and the overall development that help us achieve the vision. The map on the right here showing the existing land use. Of course, the yellow color is the residential area, which is the most dominated land use, represent almost 80% of the land use within the three-county area. That most of the development happened in the western Lake County and central Lake County and Porter County, and the area between Michigan City and City of Porter. That was most of the development, which is some of them within the communities, but also we have a significant development happening outside of the municipalities. The two maps here showing the housing units change and the population change. The darker the color is a significant change. So we can see that for the population here, it's in San John, Crown Point, Winfield, around Valparaiso.
Cedar Lake.
Cedar Lake, yeah, which is a darker color here. So same trends. Some of them is like moved to existing housing, and some was built, which is all the dark colors again. We did like a significant housing analysis, which we have really, like a lot of analysis. I can't go through all of that, but just to make it, to summarize that, we did the analysis based on the household income, starting from less than 25,000 per year up to over 150,000 or 500,000. So when we looked at the affordability between what's available from rental and home ownership, we found, and you can look at the, I don't know if this is, okay, you can give it. Okay. So if you have a blank area, white like that, it means that we're lacking housing for these household income category. So for the area, I'm gonna give you an example. For people of 25,000, we're still missing over 12,000 units to meet this level of income. Even for the income over 150,000, we're still also missing some significant. And what's happening is the people that are making 25,000, they could go because they don't have enough supply, so they move to the higher category, which is not affordable for them. So we did the analysis, and also we have an index by the end of the chapter showing for all the significant number within the municipality. So every community can look at the housing availability and what's needed within their communities. So that was the housing analysis, and we came up with some recommendations for that. This map here, which is the last map, And that's like what we came up with as a recommendation. So we have the map on the left here showing the 15 minutes walk, and that's around all the centers and close to schools and significant commercial area and surface area. So the 15-minute walk, it shows like people can walk within 15 minutes and reach all the amenities, and they can bike for 5 minutes. So within this circle. So what we're gonna use that is in the future funding, we're gonna have it as a criteria. So if you wanna build a sidewalk or bike lanes, it will be best to be within the 15 minutes walk. We also have, we identified all the transit-oriented development along the South Shore and the West Lake Corridor. And also we have 5 bus stations as we identified in our transit-oriented development report. We have like some significant corridors, from commercial corridors to traditional corridors, and we have a specific recommendation what type of redevelopment or improvements needed along these corridors. As well, also we have the one on the right here showing the type of development. We decided to have the best scenario. I think did I pass that? We have like 4 scenarios talking about what's the best development. So we have a significant single-family homes between 1 to 2 units per acre, and if we continue with the same trends, we gonna by the year 2050 we're gonna consume 40 square miles. So we have a different scenarios, but our preferred scenario is the one has like a less single-family homes of 1 to 2 units per acre. We encouraging more like 3 to 5 units per acre. We have examples here of the village, which is a great example of single-family homes but small lots. And that's what we need more of this type of development. And if we continue with that, reducing the 1 to 2 units per acre, increase the small housing and the double housing and some of multi units, that we will use 16 square miles by the year 2050, and we can using this scenario save like a lot of open space and have a higher density. So that's like a brief. It's a big report, has a lot of analysis, so you can take a look at that.
And I would just like to say that it was reported in the media that Winfield, St. John, and Cedar Lake are 3 of the fastest growing communities in the entire state of Indiana.
Yes, you're right. Thank you.
This will be the third and last time you'll see me up here. This will be the shortest. Talk about roads. We all know that they're very important to our region. I'm just going to show a couple of maps here. So the first one is about functional classification. This is a very important concept in our region. This is a typology of roadways that is officially administered at NERC as well as through INDOT and the Federal Highway Administration. This determines eligibility for future federal funding projects. So it's very important that your community's roads are accurately reflected on the system, and we will continue working with you on making sure that they are. So the other map I want to show is about where the crashes are. So earlier I talked about the truck-related crashes, but these are actually all the crashes. And this is a heat map of 5 years of data.
In their comp plans in relationship to 2050.
I think, well, anybody's jump ball, I guess. One way I might respond is just to reiterate, this is the draft that's out now. So if your communities could look at the draft and identify those areas that may potentially be at odds. I really don't anticipate that being the case, but if there's anything that seems as if it might, it's out for draft now. So this is a good opportunity to take a look at that and match it up. Thank you.
Yeah, if I can add something. We, if a community has a comprehensive plan, we really include that, and we included, we consider the documentation that they have for land use within the plan when we looked at the policy area and the future development.
Thank you.
It's a very flexible plan. That's why we go through this every 10 years and address the changes that occur societally and economically for all of us. Were there any other questions?
I did want to, if you don't mind, we do have one more element go through transit, so I'm gonna pass this off to
Okay, Kevin.
So yes, I am the last one. My name is Kevin Kalish, and I'll be looking at the transit element of the NWI 2050 Plus. Real quick, I am also the person who does the audio and visual person, and we did lose internet for a minute right before I came up here. So I apologize to anyone who was trying to watch online. I had to click out of the video and restart it. So apologies for that.
Thanks, Kevin.
So this map here is the existing transit we already have here in Northwest Indiana. Some of it does go into other areas, but most of it is municipal. And the colors that are stacked behind it are the transit demand index that was put together with help from our consultant. And it shows where there's a higher or lower need for transit in different areas. So as you can see, mostly in the urban areas, and especially the urban core areas, there is a higher transit demand. But the one thing that we looked on a lot during this project is looking at connections for a better Northwest Indiana transit network. So the next two slides that I have are different systems that we're putting forward, looking into about how to make a better connections for a regional network for Northwest Indiana. So this one here is called the grid system that we have a proposal for. And this one mostly is on major roads, as you can see there, Ridge Road, the purple there in the middle, 30, the green one on the bottom, Indianapolis, US 249. Roads like that is how this one is mostly, this is how this system usually mostly works. And it's going to require more buses because it'll be a more rapid system in which there won't be quite as many time transfers, but there'll be more buses and more frequency, which will do a better job of getting people where they need to go. So this one does connect a lot more communities, but with the need for more buses and more frequency, it is a lot more expensive to operate. So another drawback on this one is it doesn't always go, because it's always usually on the main road, it doesn't always go exactly where the people need to go, and that's kind of what the second one addresses. So this is the hub system proposal that we did alongside our consultants, and this one is more driven by demand and by where the demand is. It also looked a lot at points of interest, including shopping centers and hospitals and schools and downtowns and places like that, of making the routes go to the places that people would like to go. So this one is also, all of these routes that are all colored here, all are also 30-minute headway. So it's 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back round trip, so they're hour round trip. This one also is a lot less expensive to operate, and it also reaches a lot more of the demand index that was in that first slide with the colors. So that is actually all I have for transit. I will conclude by saying that we talked about earlier that, like we said, the comment period does run until May 5th. You can go online to nerfc.org/NWI-2050/ and look at all of the reports there. They're all laid out in their individual sections. We do have another video recap that is just a YouTube video that anyone can watch on our NERC's YouTube page. Or if you would like to submit comments via email, the comments are on there with the email you can send them to, or if you'd like to call us, we have the number right there, 219-763-6060. You can call us with any more comments. The last thing I want to say is that if you notice on the way in, we did put boards outside that you can look at, and there will be staff out there after the meeting if you want to talk to them about what's on the boards or anything like that. And we'll do the best we can to answer all your questions, and feel free to look at all those boards. That concludes.
I just want to, as you can tell, they've just given you a brief overview of what's in the actual plan document. So if you want to dive deeper, to go online and look at those elements, and appreciate all the work that staff has put into throwing this together. As Kevin alluded to, Kevin Brightsky, this is a cyclical thing we have to undertake every so often for our federal requirements as an MPO, and it's always a massive undertaking by staff, and I just appreciate all the work that's gone into putting this together. As Kevin said, they'll be out to talk to you if you have more questions by the individual boards. Once again,
so I appreciate the work that it took to make that something. Thank you. Moving right along, any other business at this time? Yes,
We got an NDOT report.
Thank you. NDOT, Mr. Parkhouse.
Matt actually sends his regrets. He's home with a sick daughter. Feel free to blame the ridiculous temperature swings we've been enduring over the last several days for her illness and his absence. So the community crossings awards were announced last week. I'm sure most of you are aware of that. We distributed or awarded more than $133 million statewide to over 220, I think, or so different LPAs across the state. In the Nurse region alone, 23 different LPAs received around $13 million. 6 of those received the full maximum $1 million award: Gary, Hobart, Portage, Porter County, St. John, and Valparaiso. So congratulations to all those and everybody else that received awards. The second call for 2023 is expected to open as well. So hopefully also, I wanted to point out this is National Work Zone Awareness Week. So all week on NDOT social media channels and then hopefully in traditional media outlets, we've been promoting efforts to enhance work zone safety. Every year there are entirely too many incidents where road workers and motorists are injured or even worse in work zones. So we work really hard during this weekend year-round, frankly, but there's a focused effort this week as construction season sort of kicks off to enhance those efforts. So feel free, there's a website, nwzaw.org, National Work Zone Awareness Week. And then also on the social media channels, we've been posting stuff all week and continue to do so today and tomorrow. So feel free to check that out, share it on your socials if you feel so inclined, and help us promote that very important message. On the topic of work zones, everybody's favorite area for work zones on the interstates, I wanted to provide a little bit of update on what's going on out there. On I-94, we're in year 2 of a 2-year concrete profiling contract, and this year the work is focused between Klein Avenue and I-65. During the day, 4 lanes of traffic will be maintained throughout. There will be some overnight lane closures here and there as needed. That work is expected to continue through November, so everybody's really excited about that. And then on I-65, also year 2 of a 2-year concrete pavement restoration contract continues. Primarily this year between 53rd and just south of I-94. We have 2 lanes of traffic moved over. I believe they are on the northbound lanes, I think, but they're working on the southbound, and eventually that'll flip. That work will continue through July, and then in August, October, we'll start working on patching some of those interstate ramps, including, of course, the interchange with 94 and 65. So more of that to come as we get a little bit closer to that in terms of what exactly that looks like. But that's my report for today. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to field those, or I'm hanging around afterwards.
I'd just make a comment that reminds people that NDOT has TrafficWise and other applications that tell us where the construction traffic is, where any emergencies may be before you take off someplace. For example, I looked at 149 this morning just to see what state that was in. And it's blocked off.
511in.org, thanks for that. You're right, that's a great tool to use for real-time updates on what's going on out there. So 511in.org.
Thank you. Now, any other business? Yes, ma'am.
Next Friday, on April 28th, is Arbor Day in Dyer. Our Dyer and Bloom Group is hosting a giveaway of 200 trees and bushes free to our residents. We've done for the last 8 years, together with 500 packages of seeds that have been donated by different groups to us. And it's always a time when people can get direct help from the people in Dyer and Bloom, how to plant the trees properly and how to maintain them. So we're doing our part for urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business?
This Saturday, Porter County Recycling will have Earth Day at Expo Center from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. It's a very large show. Everybody's invited.
I had a question for
Yes.
Ty. Will you review that Safe Highways, the proper name of that?
Sure, safe streets and roads for all. I think there's an easy website, probably like SS4, something like that. We can send it, we'll send out the information on the commission list for that. So look for that in your inboxes, we'll follow up with that.
Ears were willing, but the pen was.
Yeah,
slow.
right.
No, I appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah. Any other business?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I could have a moment, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the passing of Dennis Rittenmeyer this week. Dennis was a leader in what it meant to be tuned to regional solutions to regional problems. I know I learned a lot about what it meant to approach a problem in Northwest Indiana as a region from Dennis. And I think we all owe a debt of gratitude for the leadership he gave us through the years and the focus he made us all keep on how we solve problems together as opposed to individually. I'm reminded of the statement that a true measure of a person is whether that person leaves a place better than he found it. Dennis gets an A+. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was just going to echo, I had many lunches with Dennis after starting here at NERC, and he helped me understand the region and Northwest Indiana and the challenges involved here. So thank you very much, Dave, for acknowledging his contribution.
Well stated. Thank you. Announcements.
I've got a couple, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a history report here. In 1989, Indiana House Representative from Munster, Jerry Repa, introduced a bill on my behalf to change town boards to town councils and town trustees to town council members. 105 pages had to be changed. 453 towns changed their titles. And I want every town to understand you are not called town councilmen. You are not called town councilwomen. Jerry Repa had 6 daughters, and he said, you will not offend any ladies. You will be called town council members. So any of you that may be telling your constituents you're a councilman or a councilwoman, you're a town council member. My second item is Cedar Lake Chamber of Commerce will have a business showcase this Saturday at Hanover High School, located on 133rd Avenue, and it goes from 11 to 3. Someone will win a barbecue grill, and there'll be door prizes, and Aurelio's Pizza will be giving samples of their pizza away. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I would like to let you know that just about 95% of you have MS4 stormwater permits in your community. In May, we have the MS4 annual meeting at the Embassy Suites in Plainfield. It's a partnership with IDEM, and I hope if you have the time, you attend. This is a new permit. This is a permit that requires you to interact with your community, exactly what the new 2050 plan is doing. So I hope that you attend. Yes,
Can we get more information on that?
yes, I will send that to you.
Thank you.
Reggie, can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry. Reggie Carthels, former nursing employee, now the executive director of the MS4 partnership. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Our next meeting for the executive board will be May 18th at 9 a.m. here. Anything, any other business? For the good of the group? We're done. We're done.
All in favor, stand up.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate your attendance today.
Okay.